NDAA 4 years ago because we recognized the vulnerabilities, challenges, and opportunities that biotechnology presented. I appreciate the work that the commissioners and the commission's staff have done, especially our House members, Ranking Member Khanna and Congresswoman Stephanie Bice. I also appreciate Senator Todd Young of Indiana, Chair of the Biotech Commission, and Dr. Michelle Rozo, the Vice Chair of the Biotech Commission, for appearing before the subcommittee today. The United States has long been a leader in biotechnology, my home state of Nebraska being a big contributor to our leadership, but there is no doubt that China is catching up. China has invested heavily in biomanufacturing, synthetic biology, and other biotechnologies, meanwhile prioritizing biotechnology leadership. It is important now more than ever for the DoD to catalyze research and development in emerging biotech and dedicate the necessary resources to maintain the United States' lead in this critical technology area. While biotech is traditionally thought of the medical and agriculture sectors, when applied to defense and national security, biotech has the potential to secure supply chains, enhance sensors to counter bioweapons, and improve warfighter readiness and lethality. The Department of Defense has made strides in improving integration of biomanufacturing to fully maximize the power that biotechnology can bring to bear for national security. But it must continue to scale those capabilities. Congress recognizes this need and the massive potential biotech could have on national security, leading to the creation of the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology in the fiscal year 2022 National Defense Authorization Act. The commission was tasked with carrying out a review of emerging biotech capabilities and associated technologies related to national security. The commission released an interim report and recommendations in December 2023, several of which Congress authorized in the FY25 NDAA. The commission's final report will be released this week, and today's hearing provides an opportunity to discuss their findings and legislative recommendations to help secure our leadership in biotechnology. Thank you both for appearing today and for your hard work on this important commission. I'll turn it over now to our Ranking Member Khanna for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for convening this hearing and your leadership. I want to thank our witnesses for appearing today. Senator Young has been a great partner on many issues with the CHIPS Act and other industrial policy, and he stepped in to take the chairmanship and didn't phone it in. He was present at every meeting, even ones that I missed, and really dived into the details. And so thank you for your leadership, and thank you, Dr. Rozo, for your leadership. Very much looking forward to what you have to say. And I want to thank Representative Bice for her leadership as well on the commission. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, back in 2021, the NDAA recognized the need for experts to look at biotechnology and its intersection with national security. And we created this National Security Commission of Emerging Biotechnology. I've been proud to be part of the commission, and I'm hopeful that the final report and our discussion can lead to critical steps in addressing the challenges. I just want to say that China is moving ahead at light speed. $2 trillion of industrial lending that they're doing, 200,000 AI companies that they're funding, and they're certainly funding a lot in biotechnology. So if there's one message that I have, it is that we need to stay ahead of China in this area. We need to recognize how serious they are about it, and we need to make sure that our innovation, our creativity ultimately succeeds and thrives and leads. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. With that, we'll yield to Senator Young for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chairman Bacon. Congressman Khanna just offered, I think, the bottom line up front, which is that the United States needs to lead on biotechnology, and our leadership is indeed in jeopardy, as we outline in the report and elaborate on through the classified annex. I thank all the members of the subcommittee for this opportunity to testify today. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the hard work of the many commissioners, including Representative Bice, who I know will make every effort to be here as well. Today, the United States is locked in a competition with China that will define the coming century. This competition is playing out not only through arms races, but also through the quest to dominate cutting-edge technology. Biotechnology is the next phase in this competition. Thanks to breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, we now have the tools to reprogram the building blocks of biological systems. These breakthroughs will advance every strategic sector, including defense, healthcare, agriculture, energy, and manufacturing. Biotechnology can help us maintain military superiority, ensuring our warfighters continue to be the strongest fighting force on tomorrow's battlefields. Biotech will reshore supply chains and revitalize our manufacturing sector, creating American jobs for American workers, creating American products right here in America. It will revolutionize ag production, enabling larger harvests with less water, less fertilizer, less land. This technology will transform medicine, allowing doctors not just to treat disease, but to cure it or to wipe it out entirely. Biotech will also shape the future of data storage and computing power, keeping America at the forefront of other critical technologies like AI. DNA is the most sophisticated data storage medium there is. If we converted the zeros and ones of data into the genetic code of DNA, we could store all the data ever created in a container the size of a school bus. That capability would make our domestic companies unbeatable. But if dominated and controlled by our adversaries, biotech could be turned against us. We have a classified annex. I do want to emphasize that we are happy to explore in an appropriate setting. But for today's session, here's what we're facing. An enemy power could exploit biological enhancements to outmaneuver and overwhelm the American warfighter. Adversaries could silently attack our infrastructure and disrupt transportation and trade without being detected. They could target our ag sector, killing off crops and livestock and leaving grocery shelves empty. Adversaries could cut off our access to pharmaceutical supply chains. Biotech is no longer constrained to the realm of scientific achievement. It's now an imperative for national security, economic power, and global influence. Until recently, America's position as the biotech leader of the world was considered unassailable. It was also undisputed. But China has caught up. China has made biotech a strategic priority for over 20 years. They've had a plan. Under President Xi, the Chinese Communist Party has led an aggressive campaign to develop the most cutting-edge biotechnologies and to translate those gains into military and economic power. China's strategy hinges not only on its well-known theft of American technology, but also on its significant investment in its domestic industry. China spends massively on research and development, supporting its hand-picked champions with immense subsidies and preferential treatment. It helps these state champions acquire the U.S. companies with the most promising technologies. For example, the Chinese company BGI, which is a world leader in genomic sequencing, bought up U.S. intellectual property and used state subsidies to undercut competition. And it is now one of the largest sequencing companies in the world, and it's opened its massive trove of biological data to the Chinese Communist Party. China's strategy is now paying off. China's making breakthrough after breakthrough, including this year, creating the first fully AI-generated prescription drug, and it now dominates the biopharma supply chain. We know from experience how the Chinese economic playbook works. Corner the supply chain, then choke it off in the hopes of weakening America. Economic warfare isn't the only tool the CCP is eyeing. China is investing heavily in gene editing, bionic robots, human-machine teaming, and biomanufacturing, and it's targeting these technologies for defense applications. We've every reason to believe China will weaponize biotech. The government already deploys genomic surveillance to repress Uyghur Muslims, part of its extensive campaign of tech-enabled genocide, and it has the means to take efforts to the next level. Back in 2018, a Chinese scientist produced genetically modified babies, causing an extreme backlash around the world. But after a stint in jail, that scientist is back in the lab. And others have surely followed in his footsteps. The possibility of PLA super soldiers is no longer science fiction. The biotech race is not over, but our window to act is shrinking. Our Commission's primary recommendation is that the U.S. government should dedicate significant resources over the next 5 years to win the biotech race. Our strategy is twofold: make America innovate faster and slow China down. To innovate faster, we need to harness America's tremendous strengths. Our private sector is the envy of the world, and our capital markets are 4 times larger than China's. But we must make it easier to get innovations out of the lab and into factories and create a regulatory and business environment that enables us to commercialize and scale the best ideas. The U.S. government needs to prioritize biotech as a holistic field, including by mobilizing the private sector to unleash the power of American innovation. And I'm closing here.
Okay. Had the gavel in my hand.
Yes, yes, this was evidently I prepared this for a Senate audience, okay? I am self-aware, and I apologize for that. So thank you for indulging me, busy members of this committee, and I feel grateful to be with all of you. We need to slow China's progress down. That's the second dimension of this strategy. That starts with ending our blindness to China's clear ambitions for biotech. We must strictly defend our intellectual property and data against Chinese espionage and acquisition. Chinese state-owned enterprises aren't ordinary competitors and should not be treated as such. We've learned the cost of inaction. We let China catch up with us on semiconductor manufacturing and allowed the Chinese to take our tech, our industry, our jobs, our leadership. The CHIPS and Science Act, which many of us worked on here, has helped return America to its position as the leading global hub for chips, but it wasn't easy and it wasn't inexpensive. Let's avoid that. The recommendations in our report represent our best chance to ensure biotech remains a hallmark of American innovation. Thank you again, all of you, for indulging me, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, Senator Young. Dr. Rozo, you're
Thank you.
recognized.
Thank you so much, Chairman Bacon. And thank you to my fellow Commissioner, Ranking Member Khanna. Our Chairman, Senator Young, just laid out the stakes. Emerging biotechnology is the next battlefield in the great power competition with China. The race for biotechnology dominance is on. China is catching up, and in some key areas, they are already overtaking us. Today, I would like to take a step back and talk about how we got here and what we can do to ensure America wins the biotechnology race. I come to my role as Vice Chair of the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology as a molecular biologist by training. I know firsthand that molecular biology and modern biotechnology has existed as a field of study for less than a century, ever since Watson and Crick began unraveling the DNA helix. But biology is complex, and this has previously limited our ability to fully harness its potential. But this is changing, thanks to advances in artificial intelligence and engineering biology. Today, cutting-edge AI foundation models have predicted thousands of protein structures for help with tasks like designing drugs. This would have previously taken hundreds of millions of researcher years using conventional methods. We are arriving at what we refer to as the ChatGPT moment for biotechnology. This will both be a technological leap forward, as well as its widespread public embrace. We are about to see decades of breakthroughs happen seemingly overnight. And as we hear, biotechnology is reaching beyond medicine to touch nearly every aspect of our lives, and this includes the battlefield. Biotechnology will be a game changer for major problems facing our military today. It can solve for logistics on demand, secure supply chains, enhance operational readiness, and military medicine. One example, and I brought some props for you all, the golden hour. This is the critical period following trauma during which treatment significantly improves chance of survival. Access to blood saves lives. But access to this blood is difficult in combat zones or in remote areas in the United States. With technology under development at DARPA, we can mix dried red blood cells, platelets, and plasma, crack this like a glow stick, and make shelf-stable blood. This can turn the golden hour into a golden day. Imagine if soldiers in combat could quickly brew chemicals, medicines, and supplies on the front line, not unlike how we brew beer from yeast. This is not science fiction. Biotechnology holds so much promise for national security, but we need to get these innovations into the hands of the warfighter and in the consumer. America should dominate this technology. Modern biotechnology is an American invention after all, but just because you invent the future doesn't mean you get to control it. Our commission found that America's biotechnology strengths are atrophying, and dangerously so. We lack a federal strategy to direct biotechnology development, and federal funding for R&D has stagnated. We do not treat biological data as the precious strategic resource it is. Our biotech infrastructure and ability to attract and retain talent is second rate, and while American innovations are extraordinary, we fail to sufficiently commercialize them. Above all, the US market is not currently supporting all the diverse applications of biotechnology. There is a well-established group of biotech investors that fund therapeutic product development, but companies exploring biotech products or platforms for health security, agriculture, industrial manufacturing, energy, and defense, all things critical to US national security, are being largely ignored. America is struggling to take advantage of this ChatGPT moment that's coming for biotechnology, just as China is having a DeepSeek moment, showing that they can out-innovate us in this key technology. They're making pharmaceuticals more cheaply and quickly, not just fast following. These are FDA-approved drugs. Multinational pharmaceutical companies are seeking out Chinese biotech for innovative IP and licensing deals. And this DeepSeek moment in pharma could soon be coming in agriculture. China is outspending the US and the EU in agriculture R&D. In 2019, for the first time, China applied for more international patents than the United States, and many of these applications were for patents that use CRISPR, which is this cutting-edge biotechnology technique, and agriculture. From there, China could outpace us in industrial applications and even in defense. They have more widely cited papers in synthetic biology than we do, after all. They stand to lead at every aspect of the value chain, from research and innovation to manufacturing and the underlying supply chain. We need to get our house in order unless we want to forfeit our global leadership. Our report sets out an action plan for how the US government can avoid that future. Critically, we need to mobilize the private sector. That means simplifying pathways to market, exempting certain products from unnecessary regulation, investing in technology startups, and making the government a better customer for biotech products, all while pushing back against Chinese brute force economics. If put into actions, these recommendations will give America a fighting chance in the biotech race, but we must act now while we still have time to compete. Thank you.
I'm going to ask my questions at the end, and I'll yield to the Ranking Member O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm only going to ask one question because I want my colleagues to have time. I've been on the commission. I guess, Dr. Rozo, thank you also for your leadership. And my question to both of you is, if there were one or two big legislative priorities that you would recommend that we could work on a bipartisan basis, what would they be? Senator?
Well, I'll begin with one that I think is essential to our work, and it's to optimize our regulatory system. We propose creating a new entity to help innovators and entrepreneurs navigate our regulatory morass when it comes to biotech. Unfortunately, so many of our innovators have to deal with multiple government agencies at the same time in order to get products through the process, bioindustrial products in particular. And so many of these steps are duplicative, unnecessary, and significantly increase the time from innovation to market, thus changing the hurdle rate for any investment and reducing the extent to which we see a lot of people even attempting to innovate in the bioindustrial space, which is the one that most comes to mind when we think about what could benefit our warfighters. So we need to improve our regulatory process. Fortunately, we've laid out a viable means to do that in the report by helping people navigate through the process, standing up a small entity to serve that purpose and work across different agencies. And that is not a significant investment of resources. I actually think in the end it could lead to more profitable companies and be resource positive for the country.
Thank you for that question. I think one of the benefits of the work that we've done is that, as you well know, because it's all bipartisan and has all been agreed upon by a bipartisan group of commissioners, ideally this entire legislative suite is open for action, which was one of the benefits of the work that we did over the last 2 years. It's kind of like picking between your children to pick which ones are the nearest and dearest. But I think one of the elements that's critically important as we talk about the intersection with AI and biology is really treating biological data like a strategic resource. And we laid out a series of recommendations for the U.S. to do that. That includes authorizing a web of biological data, basically creating an entry point for researchers to access the high-quality biological data and the large biological data sets that already exist, but are now uncoordinated and fragmented, which slows innovation. It also includes working with NIST to create standards so that researchers ensure that U.S. biological data is ready to meet these models and drive forward new products and capabilities for the U.S. system.
Thank you. Mr. McCormick, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for both being here. I know you have incredibly busy schedules as well. One of the things I've noticed is since the advent of biomade during World War II and just trying to figure out what we're going to do with rubber at the time, we've come a long way since then, but we still have a lot of challenges. What do you think the most significant things they're bringing to the table right now and innovation and things that we can use? Something that the common person might think, oh, I didn't know that came from biomade. Or what's the most leading edge technology? Obviously, AI, for example, is going to be instrumental in the way it transforms the future battlefields and weaponry and stuff like that. But what are we getting from biomade that we can actually apply right now that maybe would be exciting to hear about?
Please go ahead, Doctor. You actually brought show and tell.
More examples,
Yeah,
and
right.
we have a reception after this where more examples will be shown of the really exciting research happening at the Department of Defense and other aspects of the federal government. But one of the things that we talk about a lot these days is our supply chain dependency, right? And our issues with dependency on foreign suppliers for critical inputs to our supply chain. I think when we talk about biotech, we think a lot about active pharmaceutical ingredients and the dependencies we have there, which are real and are serious, and biotech can provide a solution there. But let me talk about one that we might not immediately associate with the biotech solution, and that's rare earth elements. So again, something we've been talking about a lot here in Washington, dependencies on China for production and processing of critical elements that go in our semiconductors, phones, automobiles, weaponry, really significant vulnerability. There are rare earth elements that exist in the United States that are sitting in mining deposits unused because it's too difficult to extract them out of these complex mixtures. There's also rare earth elements in our electronics, the watch I'm wearing, my phone in my bag, that could be recycled out if we had the means to do so. But again, too complex, too difficult to extract these rare earth elements. So I have an example here that's actually by one of our fellow commissioners, Dr. Angela Belcher, I should say National Science Medal Foundation winner, Dr. Angela
She's
Belcher.
present today.
And this is a super high surface area carbon made by biology that was engineered to mine critical minerals and be magnetic in order to efficiently separate them, to solve this problem that I've been describing about how do we get these rare earth elements out of these complex mixtures. So I'll just show you, might be hard to see from the dais, but with this magnet, you can see this material is moving and is able to be separated, therefore out. And so biotech can provide a solution to some of the dependencies we face, like in rare earth elements.
I would like to volunteer to be the first recipient of a venom suit based on that material. I noticed that the FDA has kind of double application of standards when it comes to China versus us. Like, they don't get investigated the same way. They have to have an announcement. They know when they're coming, and they don't have the same quality. I know for a fact their drugs they produce don't have the same quality as American-produced antibiotics and other medicinal effects. That worries me that we don't have the same standards. I also think that they're warping the market, obviously, by the way they subsidize their producers, and they put us out of business. They've been taken to court, I think, by the World Trade Organization on our behalf, I think 27 times, lost every single time. They just get better at cheating since they joined. What are we doing to combat that so we can be in a competitive market and actually hold them accountable for the future of America, not only just in biomade, but also in just anything that we need as a strategically important substance that we can get a hold of?
So Congressman, you hit on a key weakness of how we've been working or competing with China in recent years as it relates to biotech. We cannot wait for the Chinese Communist Party to run their playbook again. We know what it is. They aim to subsidize and distort the biotech market the same way they have other markets, to corner the market in various strategic areas, and then to choke access to the market if we don't behave the way the Chinese Communist Party wants us to. That's called economic coercion, and it's something that we have come to understand. So we need to reshore not all of our biomanufacturing, but enough of it. We need to take risk out of our supply chains and come up with commercial pathways for the innovations that we make in this country, and then to ensure that we have a sufficiently robust biomanufacturing sector so that we can manufacture what we innovate in here. Turn those things into products. And so we've come up with an approach to regulatory optimization that I mentioned. We have identified how we can get more biomanufacturing in this country by strategic, targeted investments and crowding in private sector investments so that we can create high value add jobs across the country and produce these products here, consistent with President Trump's vision and the vision of Republicans and Democrats alike. And then way upstream, we need to continue to invest in the amazing innovation ecosystem we have. Personally, I'll speak just as a member here. I think some of the efficiencies that we may find in the research enterprise can be rededicated towards this critical area of biotech, so that we're making sure we have enough attention to biological innovation, turning those things into products here. Do you have anything to add, Dr. Rozo?
Yes, just
I'm actually at time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I keep forgetting that you actually respect time in this chamber. So,
But thank you for all your hard work. I look forward to the show and tell. I hope my staff takes lots of pictures with that event tonight. And thank you for the Super Soldier Serum too. It really benefited me. Thank you.
We're all having a cultural moment here, Senate House. Mr. Keating, you're recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to see Senator Young. Dr. Rozo, thank you so much for being part of this. We're talking about, biotech and innovation and in the silo of the defense industry. But really, I can't conceive of the fact that in the bigger picture, the cuts that we've made, the cuts that are forecast in our budget, the decisions that are being made by DOGE, the tariffs that are being contemplated, by the administration now, the effect that has on the people that will be entrepreneurs, the cuts in our universities for research, the effects of immigration. All these things are going to have an effect as well. So, Senator, how much of these outside, I don't call them outside factors, I think they're really integrated. Our brand in this country is research. We're the best. And both of you are saying we're losing ground. But these other decisions can't but have a very negative effect on the kind of research that we're talking about that's so important, not just for our defense, but for our economy.
Well, thank you, Congressman. It's good to see you again. It won't surprise you that I anticipated this naturally, this line of questioning.
Especially about tariffs, since you and I worked together on working on the other
We did. And one of the points of emphasis that both you and I had was we wanted to create more good jobs here in America. We wanted to make our economy more resilient. We saw some of those efforts as consistent with that, and both of those things we think are laid out, and this is a summary version of the report about how we can do those things. And then let me just hone in on your emphasis on research spending. I know it's very important in your part of the country as it is mine. It's important to our national security historically. We've laid out the areas in which we feel like continued investment in research is essential. We have seen through the space race and up into the computer age and now into this age of biology that handsome dividends associated with making targeted and smart federal research investments. I think the administration believes, I think we should all be open to the notion that not every single investment we're making in our research enterprise is a first order of importance. This is national security relevant. This is a national security investment. So we think so much of research investment can be channeled into these mission-critical areas like this one. So we've come up with ways that we think are smart and cost-effective to do that. I should also emphasize, we have a lot of inherent talent that we recommend we leverage in our Department of Energy labs. Biological talent. Now, perhaps a generation or two ago, we would have just created a standalone DOE lab, but that would have been costly. And this isn't what our taxpayers are looking for. They want us to take our assets and figure out the most cost-effective way we can meet the mission. So what we recommended is borrowing from the model of DARPA Grand Challenges, identifying really hard scientific problems that need to be solved for the U.S. to continue to lead the way in biotech, and charging these groups with administering grand challenges for our amazing researchers, innovators, and entrepreneurs out there that would love the opportunity to be welcomed into solving a hard problem. So that's how we address the research dimension of it. Dr. Rozo, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to expand a little bit on those research challenges, Senator, that you lay out. Again, this is an area to reference Dr. Angela Belcher that she led with our staff. What were the questions that if we could solve here in the United States that would make the U.S. be the perennial leader in biotechnology, be able to rapidly engineer biotech products and then scale them up. And so that is how we laid out these grand challenges. The first is around making biotechnology predictably engineerable. One of the luminaries in the field describes how biotech is still this field of tinker and test, and we need to get to design and build, this true engineering discipline. So we lay out a series of efforts to do that. And then the second grand research challenge is around making biomanufacturing scale up and predictable and cost competitive, so we can move these products from lab to market into the hands of warfighters.
I understand, for instance, trying to avoid the valley of death and some of the problems with small businesses, but I also think our universities remain a tremendous, resource in our country, and they're being damaged with these cuts, as are people that are thinking about being entrepreneurs who could locate in another country. And talking about China, I know in my own district there are scientific facilities there where they're offering their own private labs, their own housing, just as competitors. And I'm worried of these young PhDs, these young scientists, we're going to lose them, and we could lose them for a generation. I know my time is up. I'm not on Senate time, and I'll yield back.
I've been trying to be generous. I think, Mr. Vindman, you're recognized next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're obviously entering a phase of growth regarding our ability to engineer biology enhanced by AI and other digital technologies. What areas is the U.S. leading in, and where are we trailing?
So we have laid out in the report a series of our perennial strengths, which has been in that innovation ecosystem, in the ability to create the cutting-edge tools around engineering biology, having the best market in the world as we lay out. And so that area, that intersection, we have historically led in. When it comes to manufacturing and sort of the next stage of scale-up, this is an area where we're seeing trends replicate as we did in other industries, where U.S. companies, particularly that are doing bioindustrial manufacturing, are leaving the U.S. to do their scale-up. And we've heard from the commission, we spoke with over 1,800 stakeholders across the biotech ecosystem, domestically and abroad, and we're able to understand some of the challenges facing those researchers and inventors here in the United States who want to perform biomanufacturing here domestically. The facilities are not available, and those that are not accessible to those individuals. And so while they would like to be here, they're going abroad to do that work. We have a series of recommendations around this that would create pre-competitive, pre-commercial, I should say, facilities here in the United States for products of industrial agriculture and medicine to be able to innovate around biomanufacturing techniques and bring back some of these manufacturing capabilities to the United States.
So I'm concerned, like my colleague, Mr. Keating, that we're taking a hatchet to something that Senator Young, you described, may require a scalpel. And so we're cutting funding to NIH, CDC, NSF, when we're in this period of global competition, the Chinese they're throwing money at this issue. We are looking at actually being thrifty, and I think that's the wrong approach. It's not going to serve. It's penny wise and pound foolish in that regard. So I think we need to have the administration or make the case that this is an area of geopolitical competition, national security imperative. I'm convinced in that issue, but let's not be penny wise and pound foolish on an issue like this.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to respond, Congressman. One of the responsibilities we have in the Senate is advise and consent. So I've had the opportunity to visit with the President's team, which is now mostly in place, and everyone from Michael Kratsios, OSTP, to Secretary Lutnick at Commerce, to various DOD officials, including but not exclusively limited to our now Secretary of Defense, have emphasized the importance of this because I've asked about it. They recognize that our competition with China, but also with other strategic rivals and adversaries, is a techno-economic competition, and that we're going to have to make the requisite investments in those areas and prioritize it strategically in order to defeat China. So I think, the notes they have hit are entirely consistent with what we are recommending here, and I do believe that much of what is needed is just more focus and bringing to bear existing funding lines or institutions and repurposing that towards our highest priority areas like biotech. And I don't want to, understate the importance of the regulatory piece of this as well. We go out into field hearings and consistently hear that innovators either had to stop innovating or go overseas with their amazing innovations on account of our tedious regulatory atmosphere. It just drove up costs unnecessarily. Yeah.
Do you have any legislation that's on the shelf? I mean,
We do.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. And our commission will remain impaneled for a number of months to see these recommendations through, to provide technical assistance to members of Congress and committees so that we can move these recommendations through the process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan, you're recognized.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited for this conversation. Biology is, I think, something that scares the hell out of me, and I'm really, really excited that we've spent so much time, your commission has spent so much time thinking about it. I want to sort of foot stomp on what Mr. Vindman mentioned, and my colleague also mentioned that we can't possibly have this conversation without seeing the hypocrisy of cutting all of this science research dollars and all of the workforce issues that we're busy worrying about. We have to be able to recognize that in order to stay competitive on something like biology, we have to make sure that we're maintaining our competitive advantage with basic research, and that we're maintaining, if we have it, an advantage with workforce. But I would actually like to ask questions, a couple questions of Senator Young. Could you tell me a little bit more about the Commission's recommendation in terms of how we as a nation, the United States, should be leading the way on the ethical use of biotechnology? So the ethics and the U.S. military, why is that important that we lead by example, and how do we set those examples? You mentioned the Chinese are not necessarily known for their example.
Well, I'm grateful for the question, Congresswoman, because that is essential. And this is one of the reasons why we need to have a robust biotech enterprise here, from the upstream innovation all the way down to biomanufacturing, and making sure that our warfighters are procuring biotech products as well. The Commission recommends, for those who aren't familiar with this recommendation, creating an advisory body to think through the various ethical issues that might come up as new innovation occurs. Because as you rightly pointed out, this becomes very complicated and can be ethically fraught. And so having some assistance to think through those issues, there's precedent to this, a lot of precedent to advising outside bodies to consult members of Congress. This would be nonpartisan advice. We recommend standing up this Congressional Commission on Responsibility and Ethics in Innovation. And we're at a point right now in which we see the People's Republic of China in particular, and most notably, experimenting with designer babies. And they seem less inclined to be concerned about these sorts of issues, and they can use certain, please, go ahead.
No, I think that that's a fantastic suggestion. I
Yes.
believe that's one of the recommendations that Mr. Vindman was asking about, legislative ideas, and I
Yes.
think this is one of them, and I hope that we're able to move forward on that. And in the interest of time, I was wondering if you might also speak a little bit more about along the same line, what the DoD needs to do to be a better customer for the biotech industry. I know that we struggle as a defense industry just in general on any technology. How can we focus on the industry, on the DoD sector, on biotech?
I can take the start of this question. So having come from the Department of Defense, I see firsthand, and I've seen firsthand in my work, the really exciting research that's going on in the Department of Defense, and I've brought some of those examples to share with you all today. I also shared a little bit in my opening statement about some of the market challenges, and where there is a well-established group of investors that invest in therapeutics, there is not the same group of investors investing in biotech for national security applications. The risk is too high and the reward is uncertain. And so we lay out a series of recommendations that would make the DoD a better customer with efforts like offtake agreements or advanced market commitments for specific biotech products that meet defense needs, to be able to say, should a company be able to develop this product that meets DoD specifications, the department will purchase it. This demonstrates that there is a market available and takes some of the risk away from those investors who can then step in and support some of these companies through development.
And with my last half a minute, it strikes me that we've seen this play before in a lot of ways, and you're saying China has kind of a strategy that they've developed already for other industries to dominate other industries. I think it was something like copy and then conquer and then strangle, I think was the language that you guys used in your report. How do we make sure that we don't end up having to do the CHIPS and Science Act 30 years from now?
Oh. Well, with the chairman's permission, I'll respond in about 20 seconds here, because, you've basically taken my line from me, Congresswoman. We don't want to have to resort to another CHIPS and Science Act. If we act smartly, that is to say, preventatively, we can avoid that right now. We can continue to lead in biotech. Our warfighters, the American people will benefit in so many different ways. But if we wait, this could be very costly, yes, in terms of the federal budget, but also conceivably in terms of the lives of our men and women in uniform. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Thanks. I yield back.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry that I'm tardy. I'll do push-ups after this. Thank you both for being here. And if I do ask something that you've already answered, please feel free to let me know. This is far from my area of expertise, so kind of an elementary question. Within our broader, within the broader space here in the U.S., like where would you say the true intellectual property and knowledge exists vis-a-vis academia and research and the sort of early stage, or is more of the real subject matter expertise in the commercial space? How would you kind of weight and ratio that, both of you, just to understand the landscape?
So this is actually one of my favorite things about biotech is that it is kind of all across the country. It is really for everyone. There are pockets of expertise at certain universities, at certain cities in the country, but that really is spread across the entire ecosystem because biomanufacturing takes raw inputs like that's grown in fields in the heartland of America and can use that as the starting input and starting material to grow products. This is really a technology that is accessible across the United States. And we have companies, we've talked to many of them, who are taking IP and technology in one part of the country and commercializing and trying to build manufacturing facilities in another part, and putting those facilities next to large agricultural fields and being able to port over the surplus agriculture and using that as a starting material. One more point, if you'll allow me, this is actually gets back to the grand challenges. Right now, that starting input is limited somewhat to raw sugar, things like coming from corn, but with what's called flexible feedstocks, and we have a grand challenge around that, you can innovate around the starting material for biomanufacturing. You really just need a source of carbon. So what today is corn from the Midwest could tomorrow be mushrooms in Pennsylvania or apples in Washington. It's really an accessible technology. It can be in the backyards across all of America and grow jobs across the country. It is, again,
I just want to know, we have a lot of apples in New York, upstate
There you go,
New York.
and New
Tim,
York.
just for the record. Senator, yeah, please.
And if I could, Congressman, I just emphasize these aren't PhD jobs. Most of them. These aren't jobs that require a fancy MBA or graduate degree. These are jobs that if you have a high school education, you may require a little follow-on training at the local community college, but good paying biomanufacturing jobs across America. We could imagine a reordering of supply chains, and I think we'll actually realize that in the next several years, where there's more distributed manufacturing occurring near customers, drawing on corn stovers and switchgrass and other inputs that go into as feedstocks to biomanufacturing. And so really exciting economic opportunities. At the same time, we're staying in front of the Chinese, which has national security implications.
And just one quick follow-up on both of the national security, but also the economic development side. Are there places or groups, excuse me, that have kind of started to get this right, that are really leading the nation right now in terms of bringing that all together, or we still have work to do to, like, is there a place you could point to as a case study of success where this is already happening, where?
Mine goes to places outside of the United States,
Okay.
Unfortunately, but there have been a few green shoots, so to speak, here in the United States. One was through the CHIPS and Science Act, a tech hub in Illinois that could definitely become much more important to that area's economy. But Dr. Rozo?
Sure. There's also BioMade, which is a manufacturing innovation institute that was funded by the Department of Defense that works on scale-up challenges for biomanufacturing, but is putting facilities across the country to be able to drive forward biomanufacturing. And again, you may have missed my telling everyone about the reception that is happening after this event, where we'll have some of those products to show people, but it's things like a shirt from Lululemon or shoes from Nike. And so there are great examples of this happening and coming to fruition. We just need to make that flywheel turn faster.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and again, appreciate not only both of your work, but everybody involved in the commission. I know it's a lot of time, and I think it's a great service to the nation, so thank you, and yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a guest with us, Ms. Stephanie Bice. So I ask unanimous consent that non-committee members be allowed to participate in today's briefing after all the committee members have had an opportunity to ask questions. Is there an objection?
Now, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say I really enjoyed working with Representative Bice on the commission, and she added a lot of valuable contributions.
Fantastic. Without objection, non-committee members will be recognized at appropriate time for 5 minutes. Ms. Bice, you're recognized.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman, and it's really great to be back in the City Subcommittee hearing room with all of you. I want to first say thank you to Senator Young and Dr. Rozo for their tireless work the last 2 years on this report, and I see many of our fellow commissioners that are also participating in the audience this afternoon. So it's been a privilege to be part of the commission the last 2 years for me. I did not have a lot of knowledge of biotech or biomanufacturing in the last 2 years, I have learned a tremendous amount. And it, I think, is really incumbent upon us to take what's in this report and move forward with it. There's been a growing interest in the biotech space, and as everyone here knows, the CCP is investing heavily into biotech and biomanufacturing. In 2023, the R&D spend in biopharmaceuticals reached $15 billion, a 42,000% increase from 2015. China currently controls 80% of global pharmaceutical supply and possesses a monopoly of key elements of the global pharmaceutical chain. And while China may pose as domineering in biotech, the U.S. still has an edge, but action is needed for us to grow in this realm. The Commission's report hopes to give a series of recommendations to develop and maintain our lead in the field of biotechnology. It highlights the need for the U.S. to develop the necessary infrastructure to scale the burgeoning bioeconomy at home. And it explores ways to grow our biotech workforce, ensuring that we continue to be a hub for the best and the brightest in the world. It also makes recommendations to help simplify the regulatory process and make it more appealing for businesses who want to develop their products right here in America. Again, it's been fun to be a part of this. It's been incredibly eye-opening to realize the work that needs to be done. And I very much look forward to working with Roe and Senator Young and Senator Padilla to move many of the recommendations that have been put forward legislatively to make those happen, become a reality. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for indulging me for a few minutes in this subcommittee's work. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield.
Thank you. I want to thank you both for your expertise and sharing with us today. So our subcommittee, we look at cyber, electronic warfare, AI, information or technology enhancements, and I feel like I sort of understand this is hard, and so this is something new for me. So I really appreciate learning from you, and I look forward to digging into the report and learning from it. Now, what we find in these other areas, sort of cyber, AI, EW, the private sector is ahead of us, ahead of the military, and it's hard for the military to figure out how to work with our private sector and fund things that year, get the technology sooner. Are you seeing the same issues with biotechnology?
Yes, the same paradigm repeats itself. And we have a series of recommendations to try to address that. One to highlight is on military specifications. So sometimes a product designed by biotechnology may meet the same standards as a product with conventional or legacy manufacturing. Sometimes it may even exceed those standards. But because it was biomanufactured, in many instances, the mil spec is not written in such a way to accommodate that product. And so with adjustments, that, as you well know, creates a chilling effect in terms of being able to actually procure that product and the acquisition cycle. So with adjustments to that, we aim to fix one of those perennial problems that we've heard about from stakeholders.
Yeah, the culture of the military is to have a 5, 7, 8-year plan, pay down the road, and it doesn't work in this model. Do these companies have the same challenges that we see with others with the valley of death, where they get a start, but they can't get traction?
Really, yes.
How can we help with that?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the key things we can do is implement some of these demand signals that Dr. Rozo mentioned. If an innovator has assurance that once they develop a product and develop it to DoD specs, it will be procured, then they'll continue to stay in business, they'll attract investors, and they'll remain a viable enterprise. But without that demand signal, it becomes very challenging for them to sustain the regulatory process and all the rest.
Thank you.
And we also lay out a recommendation around an independence investment fund that would be run by a non-governmental manager, operate somewhat like a venture capital firm, but with government priorities in mind. We recommend that a portion of this fund be directed towards biotechnology, but not the entirety of it, owing to, as you describe, the challenges for biotech repeat itself in other critical and emerging technologies. This aims to have the government be a source of, again, buying down risk for the private sector, signaling that this is something that's important to the government, and get private sector off the sidelines and on the field to play for all of these emerging technologies that are necessary for national security.
Thank you. How can DoD implement the use of AI with biodata to drive biotechnology innovation while protecting against malicious issues
Well,
or uses?
yeah, in the biotech space, one of the key things that we consistently heard was there wasn't enough AI-ready biotech data for our innovators to get access to. So we propose creation of this web of biodata that will allow researchers to share one another's findings, and then we also allow that biodata to be accessed and then utilized by innovators. So that would take some of the cost and some of the challenges out of associated with solving problems for our innovators.
And Senator Young points out, critically, it would be cyber secure. So you would, have that added protection around access to those data sets.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have a follow-up question? I want to take a moment to thank Representative Khanna, Representative Bice. Thanks for serving on this commission and your leadership. Thank you to you both. And I could just tell for me, I'm on the tip of the iceberg. I got a lot more to learn in this area. So I appreciate your leadership and your hard work.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That
members.
will close. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say thank you to you for putting this together and allowing us the opportunity to be able to talk about the report. It's important and it needs to be highlighted. And I think the discussion here is really a first step, a beginning to letting people understand how important this truly is and how critical it is for Congress to take action. And I would also just add that you may not be aware, but in the president's executive order, he actually talked about investment in biomanufacturing. So I think this goes along with the president's sort of vision for transformation of the space. And I don't know, Senator, if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think we've come to a close, and I overstayed my welcome in the opening comments, but the golden age of innovation, right, is something we're all trying to usher in. So I certainly think that's consistent with the president's agenda. Thank you.
Well, I have a 10-hour flight on Friday. I know what I'm reading.
All right.
With that, we'll close. Thank you.